telling me it was high risk.
Sounds like you've really identified what that crowd looks like.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about conversion in a business like this. It's about the retained, using the data in a good way.
Yep.
It's building data through engagement.
Welcome to the first episode of Crowd. I've got Matt Bird with me today, who's the CEO and founder of the Shirt Society. Welcome, Matt, to the first episode of Crowd.
Thanks. I feel honoured to be the first one on.
I remember you telling me the idea for the Shirt Society, and at the time you still had the old business, which I had a couple of shirts from at the time, similar sort of business.
You were wearing one on that day, I remember.
Yeah, I've still got that actually. Yeah,
it's good shirts, mate. That's what you get when you get good shirts.
Yeah, decent material. I think, to be fair, the shirts that you've produced so far are probably the closest thing I've had since I used to buy Dolce & Gabbana shirts back in the day, before they became 300 quid.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, isn't it? You get the more quality that brands put in, the more they charge for it. Where I've always been a believer that you shouldn't have to pay 300 quid for a good quality product. So I'm glad it's stood the test of time.
yeah, so for the rest of them will do too. And
yeah,
just to obviously make sure everyone knows it's not a sponsorship deal, I am actually a member of the Shirt Society. And
yeah.
I've got a monthly subscription, so it's not the only one I've got, but it's not a freebie to come on the show or anything
it's
like
not,
that.
Absolutely not. Paid good money and I appreciate it.
Yeah. So obviously, what we try and do here with Crowd is talk about how you build your audience or your crowd, your customer base, and I think culture is a really, really important part of it. And I think when we've spoken in the past, you've talked about like identifying a certain kind of culture that fits in with your brand and finding those customers and obviously starting more than just a shirts business, but almost a movement or a club or that kind of thing. Do you want to explain what that original concept was about?
Yeah, no, 100% nail on the head. It's when I had the old business, which was similar type shirts. I think because of my kind of surroundings, network, where we were based, who I knew, we picked up like a customer that was, a young, it wasn't necessarily young, but it was like kind of a mid to late 20s upwards professional. Wore suits or kind of smart attire every single day, working in professional environments. And what we were struggling with the old business was getting enough relevant product in front of them, because our collections back then were just purely like casual shirts and 60 or 70 quid. And it got to a point where I thought something needs to change with this business a little bit. So I'm going to go and speak to a load of my customers that I have in the old business. So I think there's probably 300 people that I spoke to. I was like, right, here is what we've got. What do you need from shirts? How do you buy them? Where do you wear them? How much do you spend on them? Where do you buy them from? And just got a load of feedback essentially about how people used this product. And the consensus came back was when our customer was buying shirts, they needed to be 25, 30 quid. Typically they'd be from TM Lewin or Charles Tyrwhitt. They're a bit more formal. They were ones that they needed every single day, so they didn't want to spend 70, 80 quid on a shirt that they wore for 5 days a week. And so they basically said, if you can make a product that is as good quality as yours, put it at a price that we're comfortable with for this type of need for it. But fundamentally, if you can stop me from going to TM Lewin or Charles Tyrwhitt because I hate it, we'd sign up. We'd be a part of it. And so subscription in the model wasn't something that we purposefully did. It came purely from feedback. And so the more you think about it, the more that we developed it, you're saying, right, well, we're actually, we've got shirts in great quality and, we're doing them at a good price point, but the subscription side of it is taking our customer away from TM Lewin and Charles Tyrwhitt and stopping them from going shopping, because that's the fundamental thing that they didn't like doing about it, was going shopping, whether that's, driving to the shop or spending their half an hour lunch break looking at 3 walls full of boring shirts. Yeah.
So traditionally, the likes of the companies that you've mentioned, TM Lewin and such like, they tended to do like a fixed price for 5 shirts or 4 shirts. It was always a chunk of money at one time, wasn't it? So that was moving to that subscription model meant that people could spread that cost over a period of time.
And people, they'd say you buy the 5 shirts and you'd probably use 2 of them. The 3 you'd kind of bring out in a couple of months' time. But yeah, those retailers, obviously they were in direct competition with each other. So it was almost a bit of a race to the bottom. One of them would do 5 for 100, then one would do 5 for 90. And there was just no real experience there for the customer other than price. And I think through my years of like business, you need to have more than just a good price to get, a loyal customer essentially. But they had nowhere else to go. It's Charles Church, Timon, or...
It tends to be the case, doesn't it? So there's people that buy on price and there's people that buy because they've got an affinity with the brand, almost become like brand ambassadors.
And that's it. I think that's just the way kind of consumer culture is going anyway. People want to buy they want to hear stories. They don't want to just go into a faceless shop that stacks it high, sells it cheap. They want to buy into something other than the product that they're buying. And even in the last kind of 5 years, I think that's become even more apparent and important for
It's kind of standing for something. I think one of the Gartner reports I read recently talked very much about how one of the biggest consumer drivers is trust, particularly with what's happened over the last 12 months. So sort of trust and like companies standing for something. I think it probably sort of brings us back onto that culture question as well. Like, what is the culture of the Shirt Society? What is it that you're trying to build, and what will customers kind of see in that?
We're trying to do exactly that. Build trust. We like to say we're like like your partner in crime essentially. We want to do things that just better your life. And our kind of tagline is, shorten your to-do list. So whether that is shirts or t-shirts or polos or whatever we do, fundamentally it needs to, take the hassle and the stress away from shopping. And I say stress loosely, it's not real stress, is it? It just winds you up when you can't find a parking space, but it's a hassle. And so that's at the forefront of everything that we do. And having people really bought in and emotionally attached and like love us as a brand. I like to say, liking a brand is great, but it's kind of not enough for us. We want our members to love us. That way, they stick with you through thick and thin. They talk about you, they shout about you, and they champion you and become an ambassador, like you said. So that is kind of in our DNA now. Of right, does that make a customer love us? Will that make one of our members stay with us for 3 months longer? If not, kind of why are we doing it? And so there's no shortcuts. We're playing like that long-term partnership game where we want you to be a member of this business for 5-10 years, rather than just functionally buying a shirt and then, go into the next brand. So everything we do internally is trying to question ourselves and say, right, does that make them love us? Are we giving them, what they deserve to have essentially? So it's an interesting way of thinking. Obviously, we're delivering really good quality products, but there is a lot more to it than that in our view. It is about the whole retail piece and shortening that to-do list essentially.
So how would you say that you're talking to those customers then? Is there a certain kind of language that you use? Is there a certain kind of way that you speak to them that makes them feel part of that? Because I know that I've certainly noticed that lots of people talk about you on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and obviously I'm one of them, but I know you, but I know it's people that don't know you that all say, look, I've got my new shirt from the Shirt Society. Yeah. So you're bringing them in on a journey somewhere down the line. So how is it that you're speaking to them that's bringing them along on that journey with you, do you think?
First of all, it's straight down the middle. It's as simple as it gets. We're not sugarcoating anything that we do in terms of, you can go on any site and there's a 5,000 word product description about everything about that product. A lot of guys just don't care. They just want to know that it's made from good fabric, it fits well, and it'll last, and it'll stand this test of time.
It's typical blokes, right?
Done.
Tick the boxes. It's like, I want to get from A to B as quick as possible and make good time, right?
Absolutely. And the other side of that is a bit of a personal approach. The way the business started was very much, I was in dialogue and communication with customers, and we're talking to them like we're a person, not a company or a marketing machine. Try and sign everything myself. Try and just build a bit of personality behind the brand, because it comes back to that. People don't want just a faceless business anymore. Yeah.
I have noticed that when my deliveries come, your little letter that's looks like it's actually been signed by you.
So it genuinely is. So
it's about 1,000 deliveries a month now. You must be killing.
It takes a day to get through it most of the time. But that's conscious, right? So we tried it where we kind of, when we scaled a little bit, we printed my signature on the letters. It just didn't feel the same. I didn't feel like the connection was there. So then we made the decision to stop printing, let's hand sign them again. It's just a nice personal
So when you're a
touch.
£1 billion turnover company, you're just going to be sat in an office signing
That
letters.
will be hopefully my job. All I do is just sign letters every
You've got a
single
team
day.
doing everything else.
Absolutely. But I think that's important, and I think
Yeah.
signing things off and making members know that there's somebody at the other side of that email rather than just a hello email address. And I think that's really resonated with our members, is that they like a lot of our customer service emails that we get now always starts with hello Matt or hi Matt from people that I don't know, but I love that because it feels like they're talking to someone. And we've got a guy called Jack now who does all the membership services stuff, but initially it was just me having that dialogue with members, and I think that's really important.
How do you scale that?
It's a good question.
It is a challenge, though, isn't it?
It is a challenge, but having it at it's tiny little touches. You don't need to be on the phone to them all the time. We do speak to customers on a regular basis, whether we phone them or we get on a Zoom call with them. We do outreach and proactive dialogue and communications is one of our things that we want to do. We don't just want to be there when something goes wrong. We want to instigate conversations with you. But it is small things like signing letters and doing little bits like that that keep that connection, I think.
I think a lot of companies talk about personalisation, and it's very key to kind of understand who your customer is, but like you're talking about, there's another side to that as well, isn't it? So you being a person and people in your business being someone that people know who they are and they're accessible. And then at the same time understanding who your clients are and spending that time asking those questions and doing some proper research, and the fact that you are still getting those messages. I know I've texted you saying, I'm trying to do something, is it because I'm on Safari? And then I go and do it on Google and it's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
so,
and that's what we found.
And you get back, there's not many CEOs of fashion businesses I could text and I get a reply about something like that. It's the
most important thing for me. I hate it when I miss an email or someone misses an email and someone then chases up saying, have you seen this? Or, can you come back to me? I hate that. I like to be available to our members when you need help, or you just want to give a bit of advice or feedback or whatever it is. And so it is really interesting. Like Jack now, who does everything is from Jack, like not from me. But that's great because I want him to now build his relationships with our members. And hopefully, if you've got a problem in 6 months' time, you go, hey Jack, can you help me fix this? And he'll be like straight away on it, rather than, like I said, the generic thing where you maybe get lost in the mounds of emails that are in inboxes.
So apart from that really excellent level of customer service and that personal touch, what else are you doing to sort of building loyalty with your customers? Like you say, obviously people can go and get a shirt from anywhere. So once you've got people on board, particularly with a subscription service, the key is to try and get as good as Netflix, for instance, people just renewing month in, month out. So what sort of things do you do as a business now to keep those customers sticky and keep them loyal?
So it's interesting. So the last year has really made us think about that. Initially when the proposition was launched and built, it was purely to go after the guys that wore suits every single day, formal shirts, worn under a suit, shop from TM Lou and Charles Tyrwhitt. When people then are told to work from home and can't go into the office, the demand for formal shirts falls off a cliff. And so we thought, what can we do here that actually still gives a product to a member? And then you diversify your product set. You say, right, let's go into casual shirts, let's do t-shirts, let's do polos, and actually let's build this into be a bit of a wardrobe brand rather than just something, a shirt specialist company. Although it is called the Shirt Society, the idea is to give you all the things that you need in your wardrobe, just on a kind of recurring basis. So more products, more flexibility, and different frequencies as well. So we realised that it's going to be quite tough to expect everybody to stay a member and make them pay £30 every single month for shirts that they've got nowhere to wear them to. And so then we introduced monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly membership plans. So you can get 4 drops a year opposed to 12. And so adding that flexibility in, along with the customer service and a broader range of products, hopefully, and it is keeping people sticking around a lot more, and they're seeing a bit more past the it's just shirts, and they're saying this is great.
I guess the way that business has gone in the last 12 months, and I think a lot of it's going to stay. Granted, I think people are going to get back in the office. I know I'm dying to get back to having like being in the office and having a bit of banter with my work colleagues that's not on Zoom. And maybe I'm the exception, but I do notice a few people wearing shirts like this, maybe not a full suit, but I'm still customer facing. So I will, obviously, I work in a sales and marketing role, so I will still be presentable. Granted, there's a lot of people that will still be on calls that I'm speaking to that'll have t-shirts and hoodies.
It is a lot less. I know that first lockdown and last summer, it was a bit of a novelty, wasn't it? It's like, oh my God, I can go on in a meeting in a hoodie, and everyone was kind of loving not having to get properly dressed in the morning. Whereas now what we've seen, especially this year, people are like yourself, putting their shirts back on to go on Zoom calls, making themselves feel a lot better as well, because I do think when you get dressed up to an extent for work, you're in a bit more of a different mindset than you are if you've got your
I think I need it. I think getting up in the morning, having a shower, putting a shirt on and a decent pair of jeans, so like not a full suit but something smart, and then especially at the moment where I'm working from the apartment, I can't go to a coffee shop or the office, but just to give myself that separation of week and weekend and daytime at work and evenings relaxing, I do just that little bit of structure is really helpful.
When it blends into one, that's when you get nothing done, because you're like, I'm in my really comfy clothes and I'm working from the sofa. It's like, I'll just put the TV on. You're just not in the same mindset.
Different mindset.
I don't think it is. Yeah. And that's what I like about shirts. It really transitions you in mindset from comfy to, right, let's achieve something. We are starting to see that in the last couple of months. People have, the shirt, back in the last year, our orders were predominantly t-shirts and polos. Shirts are now coming back in and they're building up. What's the split currently? I couldn't tell you. Like last year, we were 60% minimum was non-shirt, so it was t-shirts, polos. It's leveling out again now. Like today, for example, I looked down, went into the warehouse and saw the orders that James was packing, and it was a good mix. Yeah, but more of this kind of like it's in between smart casual. The formal shirts that we've got haven't picked up at all yet, so they only make up probably 3% of our sales over the last 12 months. It's all the ones that are in the middle, those kind of smart casual, Oxfords. Which don't you think the workplace was shifting towards that anyway? It was, and the majority is, so they'll never go out of, it's not like you're going to be required to wear a suit again. No. I think the working wardrobe, it was always... I'm hanging on to the things, they're still in my wardrobe, but they're probably going to get donated. I think you'll always be required to wear nice clothes, but whether it needs to be a shirt, or you can wear a nice pair of jeans, nice pair of shoes and a shirt. Yeah. I think the shirt jackets will probably stick. The shirt jackets will stick around. I'm not too sure. No, it will. It's the versatility now that you need more than anything. It's the ones that take you from work to the bar, and you don't look out of place in either. Yeah. Whereas if you're going to the bar and you're wearing a suit, it's evident you've just come from work. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think some businesses won't ever let the suit and tie thing go. But most will be probably a little bit more relaxed now, I think. With the way you're set up as a business, because it's the monthly subscription, so you're not really having any wastage, are you? So you've got X number of clients. Yeah. They'll pay the money up front, and then the shirts will be delivered a day or two after, on average. So you're pretty much turning over all the stock. So you're probably not getting caught short like a lot of companies have with lots of summer stock, and then we go into lockdown. That's it. It's more challenging as you grow. Like when we got the first cohort of customers in, it was so straightforward because we knew exactly how many customers we had for exactly how long. So we capped it. So we had like 250 customers for 3 months, and we knew that we couldn't bring anybody else on. And so you know exactly what stock you need for those 3 months. Now as we're growing, there is an element of speculation, but you're right. We're not trend or seasonal necessarily led. So we don't have anything that can't. That we need to waste. Everything that we've got can be sold year in, year out. Yeah. So you're right. We might be ambitious with some intake, but there's always a time for us to bring it back. So yeah, and that's the beauty of this business, right? Is that you can forecast a lot better. Yeah, and you're not going to get caught short with stock that you're having to massively discount. It's just it's out. Yeah, exactly. And that's the good thing now. Like we had a delivery the other day, and I knew as soon as that delivery got there, that half of it was already committed, like people had already placed the orders. Yeah. And it's gone. And so we want to get to a model that does that every single month or every other month, where as soon as it comes in, it all just goes back out again. Yeah. And we've got a really lean kind of inventory structure, but I guess you've got to build that sort of crowd loyalty, and like you've got to know that, haven't you, to be able to forecast it. So I suppose building in that predictable
loyalty of your customers is really key to being able to
100%,
do that.
and it comes back down to the communications piece. So we're building now a place where we can get feedback on products that we want to launch in 3 to 6 months, essentially. So what we want to bring out in September, we want a handful or a good set of customers to see that now and say, yeah, I'd wear that, or no, I wouldn't wear that. So again, it removes that element of risk from the product.
And because you've got that database, that captive audience,
and they're so engaged as well.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
What is it that you're doing that's keeping your crowd loyal and engaged, and where you've got that two-way conversation going on a much more regular basis than most businesses?
Yeah, I think it is having that personal dialogue. I think it's people knowing that they've got someone to speak to and some real person is speaking to them. But also the fact that we're doing something different. Like, it's not just another brand that's discounting stuff and trying to force stuff down your throat. It is something different that isn't being done in this market, really, the way we're doing it. And so I think that generates a lot of intrigue and curiosity from people. And they want to have that engagement piece. They want to be able to give feedback. They just want to be part of this because it is new and it's different and it's exciting. That in itself generates, people wanting to be part of it. And like you said, the more kind of people talk about it and you'll see someone wearing it, you're like, I want part of that. It all just kind of goes hand in hand with each other. But yeah, it's being real. It's not, trying to pretend like we're something that we're not. We're straight down the middle. We're, no bullshit essentially. And it's exactly what our members want out of a brand, I think. So yeah, it's really interesting.
So we've talked a fair bit about how you get your crowd to be loyal, and from an engagement point of view, you've also talked about how you're quite personable to your crowd and the way you speak to them and how they understand who you are and who you are as a brand. But what kinds of things do you do to personalise things from the customer end, so to understand who your client is, what they're looking at, what their behaviours might be, so you can then play that messaging back?
You should ask them. It's we did a piece of work a couple of months ago where we literally jumped on 75 Zoom calls with customers, and was about, they were all different types of customers as well. So the ones that have been with us since December 2019. There was ones that joined us in June, and there was also ones that had unsubscribed. And so we thought they were the really important ones to speak to. Like, why did you unsubscribe? Like, what was the reason? And so speaking to all those different cohorts, you can find similarities between those members then. What products they want, what they bought, what they really enjoyed, what they didn't enjoy. Especially when it comes down to, the people that unsubscribed. Like, why? What is it about this that you don't like, or is it a personal thing? What kind of, we were asking like what kind of jobs they do, what they do in their spare time, what things they watch, what sports they follow, where they shop, how they shop. And between all three of them, you can then find 3, 4, 5 things that applies to each and every one of them.
And sort of build personas.
And build personas around that. Anything, obviously it's visual, you can see kind of how old they are, or what we're asking, like what products they use. Do they use skincare? Do they use hair care? What other things do they care about in their kind of day-to-day life? What other subscriptions do they use? And you uncover some really, really interesting insights from just having conversations like that. And yeah, it was really interesting. There's 75 people that within 3 days of us going out there saying, organise a Zoom call, signed up. And so they want to help us as well, which is really, really weird. So yeah, it's so simple. There's no maths to it. There's no science behind it at the minute. Obviously, we've got the data of what's coming into our platform and who's buying what and how much they're spending and when they're buying. But the most important parts come from literally just speaking to people.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things, once you start to identify what that looks like, what those trends look like, how people behave, you can almost automate things, right?
You can.
So you can say, right, okay, somebody's come and they've done X, Y, and Z, they bought this one, then that one, and we can predict with some AI or other technology that the next thing they're probably going to do is buy that, or perhaps the next thing they're going to do is churn or unsubscribe. And then I guess if you start getting those markers, then you can maybe pick up the phone and ring them, or you can send them an email, or a gift and try and keep them in the loop.
100%, and you get that through their profile as well. So you kind of see what colours they buy. You know, if they're just buying blue
So
stuff.
if you know they've got a white one, a blue one, a pink one, and then it's like they've got one of each now, so they're probably going to churn. So we need to tell them we've got another colour coming out.
If you see a trend of like, right, they bought the work shirts, the formal stuff, in every single colour, you go, right, there's a chance here that they're not going to put another order because they've just come to us just for the work shirts, or you know, all they're doing is buying white shirt, white t-shirt, white polo, the other white shirt. You think, well, I've got nothing else that's in white. Are they going to drop off now?
Yeah.
And so then we can say, right, here's what's come in, and that's why we want to be really.
So as you grow, it's like how you scale that, right? So it's like, what can you put in that informs on something new's coming, or you. I mean, you talked to me a while ago about there being a little bit more to this, and like I've had a couple of gifts in the shirt packets that have come, some moisturising cream, shaving foam,
and that's like, all a test as well. It's figuring out. So we send those we used to send those perks out just to get an understanding of what you like, and then we sent a survey out saying which out of those last 3 perks was your favourite, and then the evidence is clear, kind of what are the products that we should be exploring or looking at or offering, you know, partnering with other brands and doing X, Y, and Z. And so it's doing, that was a good exercise because it painted the picture a lot clearer than what we thought, you know, when it comes down, you know, like I said before, we asked if people used grooming products or skincare.
What's the answer?
We kind of knew before that because we partnered with a subscription grooming brand called Cornerstone, and sent out in every order moisturisers or shaving balms, and people would take a picture of it, and people would email in saying, "Love that moisturiser, but I don't need any more." And so because we send a moisturiser every single month, and then after month 3, like, can you stop sending me moisturisers? And say, right, okay, now I know how heavy you use that moisturiser. You don't need a moisturiser every single month. You probably need 3 a year. And so there's all these little things that you can learn.
All in the data, right?
Yeah, it's all in the data. You can learn so many little bits from doing tiny little experiments like that that then help you make those kind of longer term kind of decisions, I suppose.
And I guess partnering with lots of different companies, right? As far as like where you go in the future. So you're offering more than just a shirt, but the more you see in the data, the more you understand the customer base. You know who to go and partner with, and what's going to work, and the more data you're collecting. Absolutely,
and that's the good thing, you know, especially with asking people and already having some experience of, you know, the partnership that we thought would be good. We know that if we ever want to do a partnership, we know exactly those types of people now to go and speak to, and we've got a bank of them ready to roll should we use them, or, you know, we might develop those products ourselves. So it's just a bit more informed, and that's it, and that's where I was saying before, we want to be more than just this shirt or product company.
I mean, I noticed in the last couple of weeks, Misguided have launched a cosmetics brand, so there's certainly scope for that kind of thing, isn't there?
Guys are they do shop a lot differently than females. Once you find a brand that you like, you want to stick with it for as long as possible, because you cannot be asked going to find another brand. Like, you just can't.
Sum me up.
Like, you probably bought the same brand of jeans for 15 years. 20, however long it is, and that's the best bit about building a menswear brand, but also the hardest bit is getting you to, you know, stop buying the Ralph Lauren shirts and buying one of ours. But once you're in, we want to do as much as we can to keep you in and give you all the product that you need, hate shopping for, on a really easy
I
model.
guess that kind of brings me to what we call our in-crowd, as far as the podcast is concerned, but essentially VIP customers or brand ambassadors. And I mentioned before, obviously, I've seen lots of your customers posting things on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and that's obviously each month there seems to be more and more people with like the box and the gift and that kind of thing and posting that. So you're obviously doing something that's making people loyal and building that in-crowd and that VIP customer base. What more are you planning to do in the future to keep people engaged? Is it about content? Is it about free drinks at bars? Is it about telling people what's on in the cities you live in? Because it seems to be very city-centric as far as the client base.
It is mainly, and that's really interesting. So part of the proposition from day one was to partner with bars, partner with lifestyle things that we could then offer to our members. Obviously, we couldn't do any of that last year. It's just a lot trickier to get those things up and running, so we didn't focus on it. But yeah, more offline partnerships to like I said, bars, coffee shops, everything that you do in your day in the city, we want to kind of tap into it. Online partnerships as well, so with sock brands, with grooming brands, and whoever else we see fit. But we're creating loyalty and referral programs that incentivize you to talk about us and do certain things. We're creating something called the Inner Circle, which is a 12-month program where if you've been a member for X amount of time, you come into the Inner Circle if you want to. You earn a load of rewards for doing it, but we communicate with you a lot more frequently and granularly. So talking about collar shapes, talking about brand products we want to build out, talking about these partnerships, and again, keeping that day-to-day personal dialogue with a really tight-knit group of guys. So there's so much kind of scope for enhancing all of this communications piece and dealing with our members. Through all of that, like you said, content is a key one. We're doing a lot more in terms of talking about transparency, so where the products come from, how we make it, and the kind of the construction of what's in it. We're trying to be really, really responsible with that production stuff anyway. We want to be sustainable. Sustainable is such a broad word to be like, oh, we're sustainable.
Yeah.
Tick.
You mentioned to me at one point a few months ago about potentially taking the old shirts and turning them into t-shirts.
So we're building that now. So
that's happening. That's amazing.
We want to have like a take back, essentially. So every product has its shelf life. You could wear that shirt for the next 100 days. You might get like pit stains. So rather than you just chucking it in the bin or doing whatever with it, we're launching like this take back scheme. So you can just send us back your shirt free of charge. You get £5 or how many points for doing it. We then deconstruct it, take all the plastic off it, send it off to a partner that can dissolve the cotton, respin it back into thread, make a t-shirt, jumper, garment out of it, and then put it back into the ecosystem. So we want to try and get as circular as possible. Really hard to set up because there's not many partners that we can go to just yet. So the first instance is we're just going to take the shirts back, and then we'll figure out how we do that.
Certainly sounds like something to be a massive market for going forward.
Well, 100%. So we're going to trial it first. So we're going to choose a handful of customers to trial that with, because if we can get members to send us back their Shirt Society products, we can open those gates up and you can send us back the shirts that are just sat in your wardrobe that you haven't worn for a year. It doesn't matter what brand it is. We want to do our part to keep that kind of responsible ecosystem alive. So it's a nice solution. It's one that carries a lot of complexity, but I think talking about that, communicating that with customers and potential customers, and like I said, the transparency piece about inside the product, how it's made, our pricing stuff, because we could easily charge 65 quid for these shirts. If you look at a traditional margin structure of a shirt, we don't. We cut out so much of that margin that retailers or brands take, and so talking about that and really giving financial value to members, but also the kind of the value that they're doing something, part of something that is making an effort to limit the 360 tons of waste of clothing that goes to waste every year. It's morally right as well. So the emotional buy-in as well as the cash value is something we're going to try and put more out of over the next year at least.
Yeah, I think what you talked about sort of like the inner circle or that in crowd that we obviously refer to it as, and the majority of companies kind of operate that Pareto rule, and I think it doesn't really matter if you're in tech or fashion or if you're one of the major supermarkets. It seems to be that 80% of the margin comes from 20% of the customers.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think the main thing is kind of how you understand who those people are. And obviously we've had a few conversations about data and how a lot of the business and the things that you've talked about is built on understanding your customers, but collecting that data and using it in a useful way. So what is it that you're doing that identifies who you're in a circle or you're in crowd is? Are there certain behaviours that you're seeing, or is it something as simple and linear as they've been with you for 12 months? Or are you seeing more than that? Are you seeing that they interact every time you email them, they interact with the website, if you send a newsletter, or they're reposting things, they're sharing things on LinkedIn or Twitter? Like, have you got a couple of different metrics that you're looking at, or is it?
So when we create this rewards-based thing, it will be all about that. So you earn, certain points or benefits for doing certain things. Right now, we don't have too many eyes on, what you're doing socially in terms of, are you posting it, are you wearing it, whatever. So to create this inner circle for the first 12 months is purely based on how loyal you've been to us over the last however long. And like I said, when you're in that, you're only in it for 12 months. And if you don't engage with what we're doing, then we're not going to give you the rewards for being in it. So we're trying to incentivize the members as and where we can to engage and promote and talk about us, but give them the right benefits at the same time. But back to the data point, and like saying 80% come, what was it, 80% of the sales come out of 20%.
80% of the profit tends to come from 20%.
That's why our collection will never go too wide, because we just figure out what the best 20% of styles are that guys buy. So our chief product officer is ex-chief product officer for Thomas Pink, and he was saying his time at Thomas Pink, they'd make 80% of their revenue out of 2 shirts, like a white and a blue. That's really it. Then you introduce your light pinks, your stripes, your greys and your greens. But most of their sales and most of their profit comes out of core products. So we're trying to be super curated in the product offering, so we know exactly what you want. We know that 20% is probably something that's going to be in your wardrobe. And what was the other point about, what were you saying about data again?
Just how you use the data to identify who the people are. So if somebody comes in, they sign up for the first month.
Yeah.
Are you watching certain data points as that journey continues, as they go through your customer journey?
Yeah.
To quickly identify who they are, so you know who to nurture, that then they don't drop out or churn.
So we've got a few features in the platform now. So you can sign up, you can skip months, and you can change plans. So we look for, if you sign up your first month, obviously your first 30 days we're looking at, are you sticking around into month 2, and what is our retention from months 1 to 2? Once we get past that hurdle, it's like, right, are you ordering again, or are you pressing skip straight away, or are you changing your plan to a quarterly thing? So we're always keeping an eye on how many are in each plan and who they are, and kind of a bit more of the behavioural type. So like I said, are they skipping month 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then buying again in month 7?
The holy grail in ordinary sort of bricks and mortar retail was if you got somebody in to buy one thing, then if you got them to buy the second thing, they were 54% more likely to buy the third thing, and then you got actual loyalty and real customer lifetime value out of it. I suppose a subscription system, you'd imagine, might make that a little bit easier to get to the second and the third. And certainly you can time when that is, and if you're going to know if it's going to happen, whereas if you're Topshop, like obviously maybe not anymore, but you wouldn't really know when that next purchase might come. You just kind of continually emailing them, for instance, or sending them Facebook adverts to find out if they're going to make that second purchase.
You don't know anything about your customer.
I guess you probably know quite a bit more of like who's going to get to that second purchase, third purchase, and then become that inner circle or in crowd.
Like I said, like the most important thing for us is that first 30-day churn or retention, because once you've got over that first 30 days and you've come back and chosen something else, the chances of you then unsubscribing after month 2 are probably quite slim, and you're going to stick around for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Like we've still got 86% of our customers that we signed up in December. Wow. In December 2019.
I think that the industry average is a 50% fallout rate after month 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're massively bucking the trend there.
Yeah, on that cohort for sure. Like we had a moment last year where we tried acquisition project where it was, let's offer this first shirt for free and just charge shipping. Like a lot of subscription businesses do that, shaving, grooming, whatever, with low cost business.
High risk though, isn't it?
Telling me it was high risk. Like we sent out probably, our acquisition was cheap. Like it was so easy to get people through the door. We sent out maybe 20 grand's worth of shirts and made 4 grand of revenue max. It was ridiculous. And what we'd find is the customers you get, you'd acquire them super cheap, but some were literally unsubscribing within 60 seconds of them signing up. And you think, okay, this is an issue. So it's not necessarily about conversion in a business like this. It's about the retained.
Yeah.
And our acquisition plans, even over the last 4 weeks, because we've narrowed down who our customers. We've changed the proposition a little bit. We've learned from that mistake. And every customer that we bought in, or every member, should I say, that we bought in over the last 4 weeks hasn't gone anywhere. We've got none of this sign up, get a shirt, get out.
Sounds like you've really identified what that crowd looks like.
Yeah, 100%, and that's it. So it might cost us a little bit more to acquire them, but the traits that we're seeing already is going to pay.
It's that long-term customer lifetime value, though, isn't it? So
is.
Even if your acquisition's reasonably expensive, and it generally is, it doesn't matter what business you're in, that like winning a customer is always the most expensive bit.
Yeah.
Keeping them is the key, isn't it? And I mean, I guess you see it across all companies that spend fortunes winning new customers in instead of just looking after the ones that they've got.
Yeah.
And just acquiring at a rate that's quicker than you're obviously you lose them at the other end for whatever reason, and usually good reasons, as long as that rate's not too high.
Yeah.
But if you look after them in the middle, that's where you can really grow the crowd and grow the business.
Absolutely, and we're getting really good metrics at the minute. Our forecasts are all built. We're assuming 70% retention every single month. So it kind of tells you what we expect from the kind of what we've learned, the customers that we're going after, and how it helps our planning for sure. But yeah, we just need to make sure that we keep topping the ones that churn up as well. So there's two lines of it, isn't there? There's your growth channel and there's your maintenance.
Yep.
So how you scale your customer base, but then how do you replace the ones that you've lost? And honestly, it's a minefield. It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
But once you get that sweet spot right, which I feel we're getting close to, because we are looking at data and we are going, here's the type of products we want. Yeah. Here's how much we think a customer will spend with us per year. So we've done a lot of market research about what do our demographics spend on clothes per year, and how much of that wallet should we be expecting to take.
Reasonable.
Like our demographic spends about 450 quid a year on clothes. Our original proposition would say you need to give us £360 of that on one product set. It's quite a stretch. Whereas now we're benchmarking, right? You're going to give us 200 quid a year. You're going to have 4 or 5 drops per year. Obviously you're going to get people either side of that. But knowing a bit more of a buying trend and a spending habit allows you to kind of plan an average and build stuff around that. Yeah,
and I guess obviously we've had a few conversations. I've chatted to Christian, you've brought in from Dollar Shave Club as your CMO, about obviously how when you grow, how you grow that. So it sounds like now you get into a position where you understand what they look like and the sorts of behaviours that the customers have and the behaviours that you have as a business. And I guess it sounds like you're getting to that point now where you can really massively scale this business. Like once you've understood that, like the conversation we've had about like artificial intelligence and predictive analytics and machine learning and automation, like all them things that you can kind of put in place that look after the bulk so you can still do all your personal contact stuff. It definitely feels like you're at a point where you've sort of grown nice and steadily, haven't you? But it's like, it feels like it's about to go.
I do feel like we're at a bit of a hockey stick moment here.
Like
we've had a year of, I've been determined not to let COVID, coronavirus, whatever, have a negative effect or impact on the business, because whether it's we can't take on any more sales because we haven't got the stock, or we learned something in that month. And over the last 12 months, we've tested more things and we've tried more things than I've ever tried before. And we've just used that time to go, right,
to get it into shape.
Better this offering. We've still grown our customer base. We've still grown our membership count on a subscription business over a year where it's crippled the economy and it's screwed everyone up.
And your competitors have been absolutely on the backside because they've not transformed digitally. I've been at my conversations with a lot of your competitors,
right, and
they're like, we're traditional bricks and mortar businesses, we're not going to do online, subscription, what you're talking about. And I'm thinking, this is definitely the way this is going. And I'm watching you having success and kicking on right through the crisis and pivoting the business and having a flexible enough business model to pivot and just change that product offering
And that was the beauty
on
of
a
it.
dime.
I mean, it could have been so different. Like I was 3 days away from placing a massive order for formal shirts, like 3 days away, and then COVID hit, and I was like, well, we're not placing that order.
Hang on.
Yeah. And so if we'd done that, I would have,
you'd have been stitching buttons down to the collars
well,
and making Oxford shirts.
It probably would have put us really on the back foot.
Yeah.
But the fact that we were able to take stock, go, let's build some casual items, let's do this, let's do that. It's like I said, we're in a stronger position than our competitors with that, because they've got warehouses full of stock. And I don't know, I won't mention who it is, but one of the main players was literally emailing on a daily basis saying, I've got a warehouse full of suits and shirts that I can't sell. Please buy them. I'm like, wow, it's desperation times. And we never want to get to a point where we're begging customers to buy product from us.
No. I guess that brings us to the last question, really, and that's what the future's going to look like, and how you're going to carry on growing your crowd and your inner circle, and what does the future hold for the Shirt Society?
I think we've obviously got a lot of ideas for the future growth of the business, but what we're focused on is literally the next kind of 12 months. Like, we know now what works to an extent. We know the success rate we're getting in certain products and certain acquisition efforts. And we know what channels to use as well. So all we're doing, for the next kind of 12 months is really focusing on, building a quality product, keeping it curated and the things that you want in your wardrobe, and just doubling down on the things that we've learned over the last 12 months, who our customer is, what they want, how they behave, how much we should expect them to stick with us, and just diving in on that essentially, and scaling that membership base up. It's dangerous if you try and go too quickly, you might lose a few things in the middle, that personalization stuff, and operationally quite challenging. So we're keeping it relatively similar in terms of how we want to do things. But yeah, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, because I think we've found something that works. We've got an incredible team now that is all very well aligned with what we want to do for the future. And where we want to take the business, and that isn't an easy thing to get to either. And we can't do any of this stuff. We can't build any of these plans without the people supporting it, but behind the scenes. Yeah. So
and you've recently taken quite a few people on. I mean, was it about 10 new people?
We're at about 8, I think 9 now. I always lose count. But yeah, again, last year and this year, that's been a learning curve of finding the right people for this business to deliver what we want to do. Yeah. And the cultural thing that you mentioned before is so important in an early stage business. And we've got a team now that all aligns with this culture, all aligns with the message that we want to tell, all aligns with the service that we want to provide, and all aligns with the growth of the business, the potential of the business, and where we are. So yeah, it's a super exciting time actually. We're focused on the UK, for the foreseeable. I think it's easy to get distracted by the bright lights sometimes. Yeah. There is a time and a place for us to look at overseas markets. It's not this year. We've still got a long way to go, a lot to learn. But I think we've spent the last 12 months finding a bit of a formula that will work for us to scale this business, using the data in a good way, like only collecting stuff that helps us build a better business. It's not stuff to then go and sell to matey boy down the road. Yeah. It's engagement, building data through engagement, building a better service, building a better product, and hopefully creating even more value for our members.
Yeah, I think the data thing's one element. I think it was Gina Rametti that said that data's a new oil as far as value is concerned. But I think the other thing is obviously finance as well. So yeah. I think you closed a small funding round, didn't you? Not that long ago.
We've raised 2 rounds of funding now, which is super cool and a bit alien in a way. Like I'd spent kind of 7-8 years in my old business banging on the doors of investors, trying to raise £1, and it's like, no, it's too risky, can't do it. Whereas this one, we'd only been trading for 4 weeks, if that, when our current investor reached out and said, really love what you're doing.
Scott.
Literally had a coffee with him 2 days later, there was another guy at the same time that wanted to come in. Another, I won't say who it is, but another quite high profile guy around the Northwest. And I was like, how have I got this like
it's scalable
thing here?
It's scalable.
That two people all of a sudden want to invest a decent amount of money in.
It's disruptive and it's scalable. And they're two of the key things. And then if it's technology as well,
and so a lot
you're kicking the main KPIs.
Yeah, so
ticking the
one
boxes,
thing we
aren't
don't really talk about too much is the tech that we're trying to build behind this that almost holds its own value.
We've talked about that, haven't we? Like the value of your business as it grows, it's not that you sell X number of shirts in a month, it's the fact that because you're so close to your customer base, almost that database has value on its own, doesn't it?
It does, and some of the stuff we're building, it's like, or we want to build, should I say, is stuff that's not even available, or you can't, like for a subscription business, it's quite hard to have what you need or you want because everything's built for kind of traditional e-commerce stuff, but subscription's like a different level.
What is it that you need? What's not out in the marketplace that you're trying to build?
I'm not telling you.
Fine.
I'll tell you. I'll show you. I'll show
Show
you.
me when it's built. Yeah, we'll get you back on when you've built that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're building that now.
Stage.
We raised two rounds of funding from Scott, the same guy.
Yeah.
Put the first round in. He just put the second round in.
Where does that take you up to? Another 12 months? Or?
No, we're trying to raise again this year. So we're probably gonna. We're going to go.
Is it going to be a proper Series A, or are you still in the?
We're talking to. There's a few different angles at the minute.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do another 2 fundraisers this year. We'll go down the institutional, a bit more of a kind of, it's almost like a late seed, early Series A type round in October. Mm-hmm. So we're just having those kind of conversations now and having those getting those introductions.
Yeah. There's been a couple of high profile investments and buyouts over the last couple of weeks around Manchester. I think Tom Pickersgill that tried to
Broadstone,
Norca, yeah. So I think probably there's plenty of people around that are doing it, isn't there?
It's really good to see, you know.
They're all technology businesses. There's a lot of big technology companies in Manchester that are raising 20 odd million quid, and there's an outfit over in Rottenstall the other week sold for 40 odd 50 million quid. So there's money around, isn't there, for these interesting tech-based startups. I know you're a fashion company, but you're also a tech company, aren't you? So.
Yeah, and I like to think that the tech is what is it's how you speak. When we speak to customers and members, it's all about the product and the front end.
Yeah.
When we go on the investment piece, you talk about that stuff and recurring revenue subscription, but you also talk a lot about the platform opportunity here, the tech opportunity, and we haven't scratched the surface with that yet. We've built what we've needed to get it to a point where we are, and figured out what we need, what we don't need, and the main goal was getting the members in. Whereas now we've got a real opportunity to grow both of those areas of the business at the same time. And so it is, and it's good to see. There's Matillion, Peak, Orca, was it that you said?
Orca,
and there's been a couple. There's been a couple over the last
just in the last few weeks.
2 weeks that it makes you realise that there's money out there.
Yeah. If you're doing the right
thing, and they're all
ticking the boxes.
That's it, and they're all businesses that are very, very specific in what they do.
Very much so.
It's really good to see that investment coming in.
Yeah, they're all disrupting like yourself. They're all cornering a part of the market like yourself. They're all doing something a bit different, and it's tech based. So
tech for days. Everyone loves tech.
Right, Matt. Thank you very much for coming in and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Get you back on in a few months' time, so you get on those investment rounds and how things are going. But
sounds good.
Great having a chat.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So that's all from this episode of Crowd. We will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks very much for tuning in.